21st of December, 1944, Dom Boudkenbach, Eastern Belgium. The 12th SS Panzer Division threw 3 waves of Panzer Grenadiers and armour at the 1st Infantry Division's 26th Infantry Regiment. 348 American guns answered, 10,000 rounds in 8 hours, every tube firing time on target, every proximity-fused shell bursting at the precise height to catch infantry in the open. By morning, American Graves registration counted 782 German dead in front of one regiment's positions. 47 tanks knocked out. Lieutenant Colonel Darrell Daniel, commanding the 2nd Battalion, summed it up. 100 came at one platoon, and not one of them got through. That single shoot broke the 6th Panzer Army's last serious attempt to take Elsenborn Ridge, the only sector of the Bulge where the German offensive never advanced a single yard. Elsenborn Ridge, a boomerang-shaped rise at roughly 600 meters altitude in eastern Belgium, sat on top of the only roads that mattered. Rollbahnen A, B, and C, the paved arteries the 6th Panzer Army needed to drive from the German border through Liège and Spa to the Meuse and ultimately to Antwerp. 3 of the 5 routes assigned to 1st SS Panzer Corps passed through or just south of that ridge. Blocked those roads, and the entire northern thrust of Hitler's Ardennes offensive had nowhere to go, shunted onto single-track farm lanes that could not support an armoured army. The ridge was not a tactical objective. It was the hinge of the entire operation. The force aimed at it looked like overkill. The 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend, 38 Panthers, 39 Panzer IVs, 47 attached Jagdpanzers and Jagdpanthers, backed by the 277th and 12th Volksgrenadier Divisions. The 12th SS had been gutted in Normandy and rebuilt with teenage conscripts averaging 17 to 18 years old, but its NCO cadre and officer corps were Eastern Front veterans. Behind it, Kampfgruppe Piper of the 1st SS Panzer Division waited to exploit the breach. Standing in the way, the 99th Infantry Division, on the line for barely a month, holding a front 3 to 4 times wider than Army doctrine recommended. To the south, the Losheim Gap, a 5-mile undefended seam between the 99th and 8th Corps' 14th Cavalry Group, gaped open like an invitation. When the 14th Cavalry collapsed on the morning of 16th of December, the 99th right flank ceased to exist. Lieutenant Colonel McClernand Butler, commanding the 395th Infantry Regiment, knew his front was impossibly thin. But Butler's regiment and the entire 99th had done something the Germans did not expect. They had prepared, and behind them, an artillery concentration was forming that would rewrite the mathematics of this battle entirely. The 99th had been on the line only since mid-November 1944. By the standards of the European theatre, that made them green. By the standards of what they actually did in those weeks, it made them ready. Regimental commanders had registered every likely German approach with pre-planned artillery fires, log-covered foxholes, trip flares on the wire, redundant communications so that when one line went dead, another was already live. At Herfen, 5 miles north of Elsenborn, the proof came on the first morning. The 3rd Battalion of the 395th under Butler was dug in so deep that when 5 prongs of the 753rd Volksgrenadier Regiment hit on the 16th of December, BAR gunners let German soldiers walk into their foxholes before opening fire. By nightfall, 104 German dead in a band 50 to 100 yards of the American line. American losses, 4 killed, 7 wounded.
On at least 6 occasions, American artillery was called in directly on top of friendly positions because it was the only way to break the assault. That is not a green division. That is a division that has decided it is not leaving. Below the ridge sat Krinkelt and Rocherath, twin villages separated by 100 yards dating to the 11th century. Narrow stone streets, solid masonry buildings, dense coniferous forest pressing in from the east. When Major General Walter M. Robertson of the 2nd Infantry Division was ordered to disengage from his costly attack on the Wallerscheid crossroads and reverse course into the teeth of the German advance, he improvised one of the most demanding maneuvers in warfare: a fighting daylight withdrawal through friendly lines in contact with an aggressive enemy. He called it skinning the cat. Leading battalions peeled back through trailing battalions, which became the new front, looping units through the twin villages and onto the ridge behind them. As they came through, Robertson turned Krinkelt-Rocherath into a kill zone. Bazooka teams positioned on rooftops, daisy-chained mines across every approach. The 20-odd Shermans of the 741st Tank Battalion dug in, hull down behind houses, and M10 tank destroyers covering the main streets. Behind the ridge, 5th Corps massed 348 guns under a single fire control net, one of the largest American artillery concentrations of the war. 4 divisions worth of organic artillery, the 406th Field Artillery Group, and a battalion of 4.2-inch chemical mortars, all feeding into unified fire direction centers capable of time-on-target shoots, every gun within range landing its first round on the same point at the same instant. And they had something no one on either side had seen used this way before: 200,000 rounds of VT proximity-fused shells, radar-triggered to burst at optimum height above troops in the open. No need for a direct hit. The air itself became the weapon. What those 348 guns did on the 21st of December in a single 8-hour shoot against one SS Panzer attack would produce the most devastating artillery action of the entire Ardennes campaign. That story is coming. But first, the Panthers had to enter the villages. On the 17th of December, SS Panzer Regiment 12 drove Panthers and Panzer IVs into the streets of Krinkelt-Rocherath without adequate infantry support. The same mistake Canadians had watched the 12th SS make in Normandy 5 months earlier. The stone walls channeled engine roar into a deafening corridor. Turrets could not traverse in the narrow lanes. Every crossroads was a bottleneck, and every bottleneck was a kill zone. SS Untersturmführer Willi Fischer described what happened at the church. It was a deadly trap for the Panzers. When I reached the point in front of the church, I received a taste of what was to come when Beutelhauser, my commander who drove in front of me, received a direct hit. In front of me, further on the road, more Panzers had been knocked out. I realized that I had to leave my hopeless position and had to withdraw behind the crossroads. Fischer got out. Many did not. Lieutenant Jesse Morrow of the 1st Battalion 38th Infantry knocked out a Tiger by grabbing a bazooka flung from a flattened jeep, a weapon he happened to find in the wreckage of a vehicle that no longer existed. The 20 Shermans of the 741st Tank Battalion dug in behind buildings where the Panthers could not see them until it was too late, destroyed 27 enemy armored vehicles while losing 8 of their own. Total American claims in and around the twin villages: at least 111 enemy tanks, assault guns, and armored vehicles. That was the price of the villages. The price of holding the crossroads behind them was worse. Lieutenant Colonel
William D. McKinley, grandnephew of President McKinley, took 600 men of the 1st Battalion, 9th Infantry into the Losdell Crossroads on the 17th of December. His mission was to buy time for Robertson's withdrawal. Frozen ground, fog so thick that men shot at shapes, the scream of Nebelwerfers, the screaming Mimis bracketing the position all day and into the night. When McKinley brought his battalion out the next afternoon, 217 men walked back. Colonel Frank Booz met him and said 5 words: "You have saved my regiment." 600 in, 217 out. That was the exchange rate for holding Elsenborn Ridge. Then came the 21st of December, the climax. The 12th SS, bloodied in the villages, shifted south and hit the 1st Infantry Division's 26th Infantry Regiment at Dom-Butgenbach. SS Panzer Grenadiers, backed by tanks and Nebelwerfers, attacked at 0900, again at 1100, again at 1730. Each wave ran into Lieutenant Colonel Darrell Daniels' 2nd Battalion, the 613th Tank Destroyer Battalion's M36s with their 90mm guns, and the full weight of every artillery tube behind the ridge. 10,000 rounds in 8 hours, more than 300 fire missions in a single day. Every gun within range executing time on target, every VT proximity fuse bursting its shell at the precise height to scythe through infantry caught in the open farmland between the villages and the ridge crest. German prisoners taken afterward said the airbursts made them refuse to leave their bunkers. The geometry of the ridge was the multiplier. Every meter of that open, boggy ground was pre-registered. There was no cover. There was no dead space. There was only fire. American Graves registration counted 782 German dead in front of the 26th Infantry's positions. 47 tanks knocked out. Daniels' assessment was simple. The artillery did a great job. I don't know where they got the ammo or when they took time out to flush the guns, but we wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for them. 100 came at one platoon, and not one of them got through. By the 27th of December, in Hugh Cole's phrase from the official U.S. Army history, the 6th Panzer Army was in a state of uselessness east of Elsenborn. The 12th SS, 38 Panthers and 39 Panzer IVs on the 16th of December, had been ground to a fragment. On the 16th of January 1945, the entire 6th SS Panzer Army was pulled off the Western Front and sent east. The ridge had broken not just a division, but an army. But the American defense was not flawless. The 14th Cavalry Group's collapse in the Losheim Gap let Piper's Kampfgruppe through to the south, a rampage that included the Malmedy massacre and reached La Glaise before it was trapped. The 106th Infantry Division lost 2 regiments on the Schnee-Eifel, the worst American tactical disaster of the war. And Robertson's withdrawal succeeded partly because Piper turned south rather than north. The 99th's commander, Major General Walter E. Lauer, was honest about it. The enemy held the key to success, but did not realize it. The cost of holding was enormous. The 99th lost 465 killed and over 2,500 evacuated. Roughly 20% of effective strength, most of it in those first 4 days. The 2nd Division's 38th Infantry lost 625 men in 3 days at Krinkelt-Rocherat. McKinley's battalion, 600 in, 217 out. The ridge held. The men who held it paid. The press never told the story. The war correspondents had been billeted at Bastogne for rest and recreation. None were at Elsenborn. The 99th stand became a footnote in a battle famous for a different siege. Decades later, John S.
D. Eisenhower wrote the verdict the newspapers missed. The action of the 2nd and 99th Divisions on the northern shoulder could be considered the most decisive of the Ardennes campaign. Lyle Book's 18-man INR platoon, the men who bought the first 16 hours at Lanzarat, waited until 1981 for a presidential unit citation. It took lobbying by platoon member William James Sakanaikas and the historian Eisenhower himself. They became the most decorated American platoon for a single action of the entire war.
Most people have never heard of them. After the Bulge, General George S. Patton wrote to Army Ordnance Chief Major General Levin H. Campbell, Jr. with a single assessment. "The funny fuse won the Battle of the Bulge for us. I am glad that you all thought of it first." 600 meters of frozen Belgian farmland. 348 guns behind it. The place where Hitler's last offensive broke, not at Bastogne, but here, on a shoulder no one was watching.